Jupiter at Night is presented before. Oh my God, snow!
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Jupiter at Night. My name is Chris.
My name is Jeremy.
Hey there, J-Man. So,
did I get the delay right?
Yeah, you got it, dude. So we got a very snowed-in edition of Jupiter at Night tonight, and unfortunately, it was going to be Snow Coverage 2010. In fact, if you're watching the video version, I even made a fancy graphic: Jupiter at Night Snow Attack 2010. But the Koreans. They went and messed everything up. We were going to have some fun with the snow, but we do still have to deal with some realities of tonight's situation, and that is that the J-Man here isn't joining us in the studio. He is via the Skype.
Via the internets. You may have heard of them.
Yeah, the Skype. The Skype, there's a tube that has been designed by a company called Skype, and
there's a whole series of them, actually.
Yeah, and so you're doing that tube now. And so we're going to cover this, and we don't usually do Skype here on Jupiter at Night, but you know what? It works. We're gonna try it. We're gonna see how it goes.
We have something important to talk about. This is like things that change the world.
I know, right?
And I'm not talking about snow.
No, although snow's awesome. We got a lot of it too today. You know, just a quick tip before we roll into this. I came out here at noon today, and it's now 8 p.m. Pacific. Came out here at noon. It was 37 degrees. I've turned on all the heaters. It's now only 50 degrees in the studio. So it's been cold because it's been 18 degrees outside. But all right, J-Man.
That's almost tolerable.
So what's been going on with North Korea and South Korea today? This is big.
So, okay, if you haven't been watching the news, I'll give you kind of a bullet point by point presentation of what's going on here.
Thank you, sir.
Early this morning, at about like 3:30 or so, American time, North and South Korea exchanged shots. And I'm talking about more than just a few bullets. I'm talking about shells.
Yeah.
Like large caliber artillery. And this is like the first attack that's of this magnitude since the armistice was signed back in 1953 that ended the Korean War. It began as, I don't know if you call it a threat from North Korea to South Korea. They were doing military drills just outside of their maritime border.
Like right inside their comfort zone, like a TSA agent kind of a setup. And so they were kind of...
So North Korea said, hey, you guys, shut up and go home.
Right.
And South Korea basically turned around and gave them the finger, and then, oops, did I do that on the internet? I did. And then started shooting the water.
Yeah, it's like hey, look how close we are to you. We're hitting your water right here. Yeah.
I'm not touching you.
Yeah.
I'm not touching you. Yeah. And North Korea turned around and touched them.
Yeah.
They launched an attack, small island called, I'll probably get this wrong, Yeonpyeong.
Yeah, no, this was an interesting pick, wasn't it? Because it was mostly a military facility, although there were some civilians on there. But it was obviously a very calculated attack. You know.
Mm-hmm.
It seemed like it was a measured move to sort of try to prevent massive damage, but it's still a striking and it's still attacking like their own property.
This was technically an act of war, and I guess technically North and South Korea are still at war. Since the 1951, when the war started, they've only signed an armistice peace treaty. They have been technically at war this entire time. Can you imagine that? 50 years? That's nuts to me.
No, I know.
So then South Korea retaliated to that shelling by they launched several dozen howitzer rounds into North Korea, as well as scrambling their fighter jets and doing more damage. And there's been no reports from North Korea about how many casualties, if anything, there are. They just aren't reporting that.
Wow.
So, yeah, who knows? So that's the whole story as of now, except what happened in the wake of those events. And I don't know where to start, man.
I know. You worry that this is going to get to one of these... It's one of these crises that you worry will escalate to something where the U.S. has to get involved with.
Well, I took history in high school. Mm-hmm. You know, I didn't do so well, but I took it, and I know that that's basically how World War I started. Right? Mm-hmm. It was all just a series of posturing and alliances and provocations, and it eventually erupted into full-scale war.
And what I worry about is there's sort of a different angle now. Sort of the big sort of elephant in the room, I would say, is China and their relationship with North Korea and our dependence on China, our economy's dependence on China, and China right now is kind of just sitting back going, "Come on, guys, can't you be cool?" But at a certain point, they're gonna have to pick a side. We're gonna have to pick
at the same time, they're also
yeah.
And I didn't realize until I was doing my research on this topic for tonight's show, but North Korea is also an ally of Iran, who we also do not have great relations with at the moment.
You're right.
And
both are interested in nuclear material.
That's kind of scary.
Nuclear.
Not only interested, but this attack actually comes just days, maybe the day of a report being released that North Korea has obtained a huge new uranium enrichment facility with like thousands of new centrifuges or whatever they use to make uranium rich.
So what happens?
So that news was basically released this morning.
Right. And this has been something that was just—it's only like they discovered, like say, like in the last week, right? Isn't that what it was? And now we're just kind of finding out about it today. Mm-hmm. Now, what happens? Isn't there something like 28,000 U.S. troops stationed in North Korea? There's we have a bunch of troops
Another
down
interesting
there.
point, and I couldn't find the. We have 28,000. That's an accurate figure.
Yeah,
28,000 troops in South Korea.
Wow.
And it was recently planned for us to start pulling out, basically.
South Korea. And
the leader of South Korea came to the Obama administration not too long ago and said, "Hey guys, don't pull out just yet, okay?" I guess they had
an inkling,
a good idea of what might be coming down the pipe.
Yeah, well, you can figure if it's gotten to this point. There's also been a lot of verbal back and forth and a lot of jabs, and I'm sure there's been a lot of posturing already leading up to this. I'm sure they've been having negotiations, breakdown, and communications. And I honestly haven't followed this story too closely for a couple of good reasons. One of them is I don't have the time and energy to worry about this. But then when it gets to this point, you all of a sudden feel like you're in a vacuum of information that you want to catch up. And now it's like, oh crap, is this something that I have to start worrying about? It's something I'm gonna have to follow for sure.
There's some really interesting things that have come out around this as well. Just I think it was 5 or 6 weeks ago, Kim Jong-il, the leader of North Korea, announced his son would become the heir apparent to his little empire. And some people have started to think that this act of aggression was nothing more as trying to play up the fact that his son will be just as great of a leader of their military. And look at the victories that we can have over these our enemies to the south. And,
right, flexing of muscle and things like that.
That it's just a propaganda move.
Yeah.
Saber rattling, some folks have called it. Yeah,
exactly. Saber rattling is a good way to call it.
I'll be quite honest, and maybe this is just more U.S. propaganda, but Kim Jong Il is one crazy fucker, and I think that having him and his heir, his son, inheriting this empire is not going to lead to stability. I think we're just in for more of this. And,
it's going to be more of the same. There's going to be indoctrinated. It's going to be an indoctrination process. He's going to be exactly like his father, I'm sure.
Mm-hmm.
What were you saying?
Yep. One of the scarier things that came out about this, we're talking about the possibility of more widespread armed conflicts and possibly even more widespread war. The South Korean president. I can't pronounce his name. Lee something. Let me read you this quote because this is the first thing that I read this morning.
All right, okay.
And it kind of freaked me out a little bit. Indiscriminate attack. He said that an indiscriminate attack on civilians can never be tolerated. Enormous retaliation should be made to the extent that North Korea cannot make provocations again.
Enormous response.
That is a direct quote from the South Korean president.
Yeah, I know. It's
enormous retaliation.
That's also one of the first things that I read, which is interesting. You wonder, the experts who they be say that this type of talk and these type of actions are going to pose a major risk to the U.S. security. In fact, we've already got our experts, or so-called experts, stamping out into the media saying, we really have to watch the situation closely, and et cetera, et cetera. So the Obama administration also has commented on the fact
there's a former advisor.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. No, you go.
Oh, I was going to say the
I love
Obama
Skype.
administration has. I know the Obama administration has, come out and made a comment that they're going to treat this very closely, or going to watch this very closely and treat it very seriously. And it's one of those very stern-sounding statements where it sounds like, we're trying to puff our chest up too, and we're also positioning ourselves.
And there have been some pretty militaristic statements on our side of the fence, though. A former advisor to the Bush administration actually came out, and I'm going to paraphrase this, but he basically said, we won't have stability in Korea until North Korea is gone. And basically, he thinks that they need to be stamped out completely.
Wow.
And, I mean, from somebody in a position of power that was an advisor to a major world power like our own, I think that's saying something. I know that a lot of folks think that the current U.S. administration is just a bunch of warmongers, but I like to think that some of them know what they're talking about sometimes. Maybe there's a reason for it.
Yeah. That's pretty scary, actually. I think,
yeah.
Is there, I've got good news about tomorrow's episode. It's going to be a higher, upper, happier episode. Was there anything else you want to touch on the whole, the background?
Well, I thought I'd share some of the thoughts that some of our other listeners have sent in. Actually,
yeah, lay it on.
Another interesting angle of this whole thing is that a lot of the news outlets and everything are callously covering primarily the financial impacts of this whole outbreak. The fact that the currency rate of exchanges have been, reported all over the place, and gold's getting more valuable, blah, blah, blah. Who the F cares when people are getting shot? But one of our listeners, Alan, who actually also runs our Minecraft server, said that's what war has always been about, the influence of political and economical changes by force.
Yeah.
And it's, I think, a sad state of the world that we live in.
It's
these people might be actually shooting each other.
Yeah, we put just a cold
increase
cost on
their economic standing.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, that's a nice dark theme there for tonight's episode. Now, it's not like we're going to be the heavy patrol every night, but every now and then, Jupiter at Night, the nature of the show is something that day happens. Tomorrow,
we will go back to what the rest of the media is doing as well, and we'll be talking about the marriage of that princess.
Yeah. Now, I thought, I was going to comment on something before we got off the air, but then I thought, why not comment about it on the air? I wanted to give a tip that, of course, we're experiencing the results of tonight. If you use Skype, like we use right now for tonight, if you are in a call for longer than an hour, your Skype machine will often become what's called a supernode, and you now become part of a router for the Skype network, and if you have limited bandwidth, you will have a very bad Skype call. Now, see, Jeremy and I were prepping for this show beforehand, so we were in a Skype call for an hour, and as soon as the show started, we basically hit the 1 hour and 2 minute mark in our Skype call, and you could kind of hear the quality, the delay there. We apologize, a mistake on our part. Like I said, we are kind of Skype noobs, but
we should have hung up.
We should have, but now we know, right? See, and it's a good test. We're learning kind of the pros and cons using Skype, because the reality is we might get snowed in tomorrow night too. But tomorrow night's episode, I'm really excited about. J-Man,
there's actually
lay it on us.
Chance. We're going to talk about Black Friday. I know it's kind of a taboo topic to some people that are not consumerists like the rest of us Americans. It is also actually just an American thing. To my knowledge, but it's the day after Thanksgiving. Every retail outlet in the world holds major sales, so we're going to be talking a little bit about that tradition. We're also going to be sharing some gift-giving guides, as well as sharing our wish lists with you guys. We have had some requests from listeners to put up wish lists so you guys can buy us Christmas presents. We love that. So we'll be putting that up tomorrow as part of our show notes.
There you go. I think I'll make a studio wish list. What do you think of that? A studio, something we need in the studio. I'm
on board.
I'll think of something. But yeah, I'm excited to talk about that, because I've also got a couple of just geek gift ideas I want to throw at the end. Plus, I'll mention a few of my favorite geek sites. I won't give it all away, though, because I know we're saving a lot of good stuff for a special episode of Stoked. But I've got a couple of goodies I'm going to give away tomorrow night. So everyone, tune in live if you would like to join in the chat room and interact with the show over at jupiterbroadcasting.com/live. And we do this live Tuesday through Thursday normally. However, it is Turkey Day here in the U.S. this Thursday, so the Jupiter night here will only be Tuesday through Wednesday this week. But then we're back to our regular
If you have more to add into the Korean discussion, I'd love to see more talk. I know that everybody out there in the chat room has had tons to say on the topic, and we haven't been able to share their thoughts with the rest of you. So head over to Jupiter Colony. I'm sure that there's enough people over there that would love to chat it up with you.
Absolutely. And also, if you enjoyed this episode or any previous episodes of Jupiter Night, do us a favor and share it around. Tell people about it. We're trying to grow the show. That's the next big phase for any new show. And the best way we can do that is by word of mouth. So Twitter it out, link it, email, whatever you can do. We really appreciate it. Maybe for a Christmas gift, just burn a box DVD set and box it up and put it in everybody's stocking or something. Although you'd have to burn the DVDs yourself. We don't actually have a box DVD set. A USB thumb drive, even better and cheaper. I just saved you time. Now, why wouldn't you do it? All right, everyone. Well, thanks so much for tuning in to tonight's episode of Jupiter at Night, and we'll see you right back here tomorrow night.